Welcome to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Let's take a look at some new r/malicious compliance stories, shall we? The first story is called Sell More Insurance Plans. This was about 10 years ago when I worked at Great Buy. Every morning we were pressured into selling these ridiculous insurance plans that rarely paid off for the customers. We had high margins on these plans. However, we were not on commission, so there was very little incentive to actually sell these. Except management constantly pressured us to sell them. Every morning we had our morning meeting and they would scold all the employees for not selling enough. You took training and they tried to brainwash you into thinking the plans were worthwhile and in the customer's best interests. Well, I luckily only needed this job to fill an employment gap while I was going to college. So I didn't care to sell these things unless I was asked by a customer if there was coverage for accidental damage or that sort of thing. Naturally, management was always on my case for not selling any plans. Sometimes they would give me some space to discount certain products to sort of half the cost of the plans. Some customers liked this, so I would always try to bundle it like that to avoid ripping off the customers who actually wanted the plans. We weren't supposed to sell the plans on fruit products if we were combining with a discount, since we got basically zero margin on those. Well, I stopped caring about those restrictions and started selling discounted fruit products with the insurance plans. After a couple of weeks of selling tons of these close to when I wanted to quit, I got pulled into the office by management who looked incredibly frustrated. There were some discrepancies in the store's revenue because we had been losing profit on fruit products. They had traced it back to me giving discounts. They said to not bother with selling the plans anymore until I had retaken the training on the plans, and if I failed again, they would put me on a performance improvement plan. I gave my 2 weeks notice shortly after. I hate retail. The next story is called Infinite Approval Loophole. I currently work for a very large bank that has footholds in multiple continents. One of my job duties is to ensure that the software we use is up to date with patches and vendor-specific configs. Anything not up to date, we have an exception process to ensure it gets caught up or an approved reason for it not to be for an interim period. There are no permanent exceptions. We had a vendor software that was still utilizing version 1.0 TLS. Obviously, that's a no-no. The software update was dependent on our homebrew software that itself needed to be updated to utilize the 1.2 version. I was tasked with creating a 3-month exception to enable the render software to use TLS 1.2, with the interim period being the time it took for the homebrew software to be recoded, tested, and deployed. The time clock on the exception did not start until the exception was fully approved. But submission of an exception meant we would stop getting flagged, and ultimately stop landing on the upper management's naughty list if an exception was in flight toward being approved. I submitted the exception as required. Immediately, one of the reviewers contacted me and asked me to change the wording for the exception description to include the vulnerabilities in using the 1.0 version. I asked, all of them? He responded in the affirmative. 2 days worth of research later, the updated description included all the vulnerabilities known to man that would fit in the limited description text box direct from the CVE website. Amazingly, this passed with the reviewer's approval. But wait, there's more. A week later, a second-level approver had to review. He determined that the description was too wordy and requested that I remove all but the relevant reasons for the exception and update the affected system type to include databases. So I dutifully did. The exception was resubmitted with the description trimmed down. The first approver immediately contacted me and asked why I changed the description because he wasn't going to approve it again without the text he required. He also took issue with the system type change because the software didn't actually run on databases, the databases were a downstream component. Recall that as long as I have submitted the exception, we have no more visibility in upper management, which means my manager is happy, her manager is happy, everyone is happy. Hence, I changed it back and resubmitted. A week later, I get a phone call from the second approver asking why I have not done what he asked. I told him that I did in fact do so and resubmitted, but that first approver told me to re-add it back. The second approver sighed audibly in the phone and told me to just update the system type to include databases and that he will approve it and it would go to the final approval in the system. Updating the system type apparently did not trigger a resend to the first approver, so everyone would be happy. 2 weeks later, I get an email from the final system approver. Exception is reminded back to me due to wordiness in the description, the fact that the system type included systems that were not directly impacted, and that all my dates were off by a month. So I need to fix all issues and resubmit the entire effort for approval. I updated the dates, remediated everything requested, and resubmitted. 3 days later, the first approver again contacted me. I responded by forwarding the email from the final system approver, CC'd the second level approver and final system approver, and told them all that they need to get into a room and hash it out and let me know what they came up with. A day later, the first approver sent me a quick one-liner that said, change it all to what system approver specified. I changed it and removed a month from my timeline, because we are already a month into the exception submission process, but the coders have been diligently working the entire time. Neither first or second approver said a word. The system approver, however, kicked it back to me, asking why the dates are now 60 days out instead of the original 90s. The last story is called Following the HR Rules. This happened around 12 years ago in India. The city I was working in was facing severe water and electricity shortage. Consequently, the city decided that 1 day a week there would be no power supply to certain areas. This would continue for over 2 years. It began as a 3-month arrangement, but the city kept extending the duration. The company was loath to invest in generators that would ensure full-day work for over 100 users. Every Thursday there used to be a power cut from 10 AM to 6 PM. I suggested that we should declare Thursday as an official holiday and make Saturday a working day, but this did not go down well with the powers that be. I was heading a team of 30 at the time. I told my team that they could take the day off and run whatever personal errands they had, but since Thursdays were working, we would change our shift time to begin from 6 PM. This was a win-win situation for all, except human resources. 5 weeks into the arrangement, I got called by HR that my team was not reporting on time. They insisted that everyone had to log in the morning. I put the situation to the team, and they volunteered to come to the office, log in and leave for the day and return at 6 PM. Works for me, if they don't mind the extra drive. 3 weeks later, HR again has complaints. The team has to be physically present in the office at all times. This was taking things to ridiculous levels. Without power, we couldn't work, and it makes no sense to sit idle 1 day a week. We decided that this would be our fun and games day, but nope, that doesn't work either. As per HR, I am supposed to hold seminars, presentations and training sessions. All this while we are still working from 6 PM to 2 AM, and yes, HR is aware of it. Cue malicious compliance. We decide that we will go full compliance and take advantage of all company facilities and rules. On Thursdays, the entire team stopped getting their personal vehicles. We decided to use the company pick and drop facility. This was way before Uber. For most people, it meant hiring private taxis for home drops and billing the company. Since our timings were past midnight, the fares were 1.5 times the regular fare. Since HR insisted that we should be physically present in the office from 10 AM, after 6 PM everyone became entitled to overtime. More than 3 hours overtime drew double pay. We loved that rule. Plus, if we worked past 8 PM, the company had to provide dinner. Earlier, when we voluntarily changed our shift timings, the team used to get their own meals from home. Now we stopped that. In 1 month, the HR and finance teams figured it would be cheaper to buy generators. For those who are wondering, other teams changed their delivery timelines to clients, taking only 4 days a week as working. We didn't cheat either our clients or the company by working 4 days, while being paid for 5. Everyone else used to idle away the day and leave on regular time. Only my team was trying to be diligent. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.